people just talking about taking on marriage and divorce and staying together for the sake of the kids and whether or not sometimes that can be a good idea. Joining me now is Gary Dierenfeld, social worker, parenting columnist for the Hamilton Spectator. YourSocialWorker.com is the website. Welcome, Gary. Always great to have you on.
Hey, and author of the book, Marriage Rescued, Overcoming 10 Deadly Sins and
Well, there we go.
Relationships.
So you are the perfect person to talk to about this. Now,
Great to be with you again.
Thank you very much. And let's be clear, we're not talking about a situation where the parents just decide to ignore each other and bring up the kids together. We're talking about the possibility of making a marriage work so that you can bring up the kids in a good situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not, should we stay or go? I don't like my marriage and I'll never like my marriage. It's let's compare what happens to those folks who actually hunker down and work on the marriage, and what is that like for the kids versus those who say, nah, I think I'll throw it in because I'm not happy.
Can broken marriages be fixed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be in business otherwise, and honestly, I got a lovely card from a couple that I worked with today thanking me tremendously for having saved their marriage. I got an email from a former client also today expressing the same sentiment. And these are situations where folks are coming to me with what I call marriages on the cusp. One of the parties has one foot out the door. And there may even be a paramour, an affair that's going on at the time.
So every situation obviously is different, but is there a common theme? Is there a common thread that is happening when people get to the point where they're giving up on a marriage that actually can be saved? What is happening there?
Loss of hope.
Loss
of hope. They don't see a way out. They may have tried some individual counseling, and let me tell you, individual counseling can actually increase the risk of a marital separation when you go to an individual counselor for a couple-related issue. The reason for that is in individual counseling, the therapist is naturally going to align with you sitting in front of them. And so if you're expressing all this consternation about the marriage, they're going to say, oh, I hear you saying terrible things about the marriage. How does that make you feel? Well, that makes me feel awful. Well, you know what? Now we're just reinforcing all that's bad with the marriage. So if you have a marital issue, see somebody who presents themselves, and hopefully they have the training and experience to back it up, as a marital therapist. When you go to a marital therapist, odds are they're going to meet with the two of you. If you go to a marital therapist and the first thing they want to do is split you up and see you separately and in different ways and different times, then you got to question what their training is. So typically we do want to work with a couple together. I will give you a caution on that, and that's if there are serious issues of violence.
Sure.
Okay, so absent that, if you want to work on your marriage, see a real marital therapist who will work with the two of you together.
Let's talk in real terms about the effect of divorce on children, because I know quite a few people who split up, and they're very quick to say, kids adjust very quickly.
Yeah, good luck with that. So courts in Ontario recognize me as an expert in helping separated parents sort out the care of children between them. So I'm coming to this discussion with a fair bit of background. And I can tell you that no child wants their parents to separate. And once the parents separate, the life forever after for that child is so dramatically different. Who amongst us want to pick up our clothes on an alternate day basis, alternate week basis, or alternate weekend basis to have to go to live with someone else who we do love with, but where we have to schlep back and forth, where our friends may be more situated at one place, where our toothbrush may be at the other place? Who amongst us wants that as our life? And then when Christmas, Easter, Hanukkah, Passover, Diwali comes along, who amongst us wants to have to be in the fray between our parents, duking it out over what time we're going to be transferred between them? So this makes for some lifelong challenges for all of these children, even in the best of situations.
Do you ever come across people who have either been separated or divorced and they're doing the custody thing and their lifestyles have changed because there's not enough money for both of them to live in the same style? Do you ever come across people like that who wish they could go back and make the decision over again?
You know, it's kind of funny because I do meet with people like that. It could be a half year or a year down the line, and they've entered into new relationships. And now I'm working with them in mediation, helping them resolve the care of their children between them. And they do so well, and we start unpacking some of the things that may have created the conflict that led to the separation. They resolve some of those issues, but now they're in a place where they can't go back. They can't unring the bell. So, I really urge parents, before you separate, try and get some help first. George, your producer,
yes,
sent me the link to an article by Michelle Werner Davis. She's, someone who also works extensively in the field in marital therapy. She referenced some research in her article that says, if you're in a bad place in your marriage today, typically 5 years down the road, you're in a much better place. And the research on that is really interesting because that's with or without therapy.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we're in the thick of things, it really is easy to lose hope. And once we've lost hope, we're in despair. We don't think there is a way out of this. The grass may look greener on the other side. But for goodness sakes, slow yourself down and have that second sober thought.
One thing I like that she says in the article that we sent you was you don't have to stay together for the sake of the kids. Get happy for the sake of the kids.
There you go. And so, I work with couples where one or both of their growing up experiences between their parents didn't equip them for how to reasonably get along with others. They may not have seen how to resolve conflict peacefully. They may not have seen how to express one's emotions reasonably. They may have grown up in a home where people had to kind of vie for the resources. I want it, there's not enough to go around. So with these folks, I'm actually being very instructive. I'm teaching them the skills. People come to me and they say, we need the tools. You're right, you need the tools. Those are a set of skills for resolving conflict, for making decisions jointly, for having fun, for finding joy in your marriage. And those skills can be taught just as easily as you can teach somebody to drive a car. But you just have to sometimes help them get past their anger in the initial stages to learn how to adopt those skills.
I'm way late, and I want to ask you one more question. Can you hang on? Because if I don't get to traffic, I'm going to be in trouble, and then we've got some callers. Okay, Gary Dierenfeld is my guest, social worker, parenting columnist for the Hamilton Spectator. We're talking about staying married for the sake of the kids and why it can be a very good idea. We're going to get to your calls just after another couple minutes with Gary. You're listening to The Night Side. It's 8:16. Time for news
on Newstalk 1010.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking about whether or not it's a good idea to stay together for the sake of the kids. Gary Dierenfeld is my guest. I'm going to keep you just a couple more minutes. Gary, social worker, parenting columnist for the Hamilton Spectator. The website is yoursocialworker.com. And the book, again, is?
Marriage Rescue, Overcoming the 10 Deadly Sins and Failing Relationships.
Why is it that people who are thinking about getting separated or divorced seem convinced there is absolutely nothing that can save their marriage? And it seems that, as you said, one always has one foot out of the marriage more than the other one does.
Yeah, well, a bad marriage doesn't happen in one day, week, month, or even a year. A bad marriage is something that can take place over several years. And because of that, people get in the rut that they may have tried to discuss things between themselves, but not having had the tools, many of those discussions become what we call circular arguments, which is a fancy-dancy way of saying, I'm going to blame you and you're going to blame me, goes on without resolution. That's how we lose hope. So you need to go to somebody who will help you out of those circular arguments and actually teach you the skills. You actually don't have to have hope when you start marital therapy. You don't have to have faith. You don't have to like each other. You don't even have to like the counselor. What you do have to do is practice the skills you learn. It's kind of like learning to play the piano. You don't have to have faith that you'll ever be able to play the piano, but if you don't practice, you never will. So concentrate on practicing the skills, and then the faith, the hope, the relationship, that is a byproduct of getting along better.
Some people seem to split up and become very preoccupied with their own lives in terms of dating and this and that, and I always wonder what effect that has on the kids.
Very tough for kids, especially if you start dating too fast, too soon. Children have to go through their own grieving process, and part of that grieving process is, we've heard of denial. Kids are in denial too. So they don't want to believe that their kids are forever separated. They're going to hold on to a belief that they will at some point get together. If you date before they have dealt with that part of the grief process, you're going to interfere with it. The child is going to look at that dating partner and say, hey, you're thwarting my fantasy of my parents getting back together. As such, I'm never going to like you, and I'm going to make your life miserable. So it's really important from that perspective that if you are, separating, if you're getting on with life, and if you're starting to date, make sure that your kids have also adjusted to your separation.
Okay, but to wrap up, you're saying if people can get themselves to couples therapy, they can often save what they think is something that cannot be salvaged.
It's amazing. I have couples who look at me and they're forthright. We never would have believed that we could be enjoying each other's company again. And not just again, in a whole new way, a healthier way.
Gary, thanks a lot for this. It's always great to talk to you.
Great to chat with you, Barb. All the best.
Thank you. You too. Gary Dierenfeld, social worker, parenting columnist for the Hamilton Spectator. And we are putting it out to you at 416-872-1010. You can reach us by text at 71010. Have you stayed married for the sake of the kids?